common sense is a scarcity in Europe. Everything is just illogical. Zelensky gets praised because he don't want to negotiate with Russia. That is somehow brave in the mainstream media. And in the conscience of everyone, basically in Europe, at least the most indoctrinated part, which is Scandinavia, where compliance is almost a religion. Don't ask questions to the mainstream media or authorities at all, because that might be rude. And we gotta think like the neighbor, so we can be, well regarded in our little communities. And that whole culture makes everyone so adaptable to propaganda, where you mention stuff enough, suddenly it becomes reality. The law of propaganda, and that is just ripe in Denmark. We are like Sweden, Norway, especially Sweden, because they don't have access to language where they can voice their opinion, because it's not in their culture at all. They're like built for PC culture, which is something that not many people know. That's why Sweden has decayed as much. Well, it is in their culture. It's like the soft underbelly of them. But the same thing is just to a lesser extent, where in Denmark we can still be rude. But the whole thing is, like, the Prime Minister of Denmark get praised for being brave, when she's like, peace is more, what did she say? Scary, or could be more dangerous than war, which is like an oxymoron. It's illogical. It's stupid. Like, if you want to have peace and opening a dialogue, well, that is like pretty good in all kind of history. Like, there's no, like, so it's just so crazy, and people, like, they eat it up. So if you ask people in Denmark, or just, I think it's more because in the Nordics, people proud themselves with, they care about politics, right? Which means they eat all the mainstream media, because that is where they get it from, and then they pride themselves being aligned with the current doctrine. At least here in the southern parts, people are aware that everything is corrupt, and like, oh, what does it even matter, right? But the funny thing is, in the north of Europe, people proud themselves with actually being informed. The problem is, the source of the information is always through the mainstream spin or state-controlled media. No one asks questions where they get the media from. They think if they read two different newspapers, that they have a counterbalance. But who owns these papers? Well, in Denmark, it's like two funds. They own all the papers. And then there's a state that owns two too. And even like some of the smaller niche papers, well, one of them comes from a consulting firm, which again leads to a lot of trades with these other papers that are part of this. And everyone that is bought, they are WEF. Everything WEF touches is just wonderful. And like, it's just insanity. And no one sees it. No one sees it. Basically, if you ask questions about it, that seems illogical. It's like, you are the one that is, very impolite asking questions. Such a strange phenomenon, right? It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's just a surreal reality we're living in, where everyone just wants to be in the simulation, wants to believe what the papers write, and then it's like, yeah, the law of propaganda repeated enough, and it becomes a reality. And yeah, and then suddenly Trump is the bad guy for going for peace, like pushing Zelensky towards peace. And then another thing is, a lot of the people, the Danes that saw this video of the behavior of Zelensky, they thought he was brave. I don't know how they come up with it, but that was like what the people say. He's so brave, he didn't get himself rattled. Well, did you see the thing? Like, he replied to questions that was not meant for him. Like, he was completely misplaced in the conversation. And he's attacking JD Vance and Trump interrupting them and being very rude in a case where he needs the deal more than they do, right? Like, this is so bad diplomacy that it must be designed. Like, either that or is like criminal, what do you call it? Criminal stupidity. Well, anyway, that was my little rant. Hopefully people wake up